While countless travelers profess their passion for aviation, the stark reality reveals a different narrative. The overwhelming majority merely tolerate the ordeal. Endless hours navigating labyrinthine security checkpoints and languishing in departure gate queues, only to be propelled through atmospheric heights within a constricted metallic vessel, can unnerve even the most seasoned voyager. Nevertheless, commercial aircraft maintain their reputation for exceptional safety standards, correct? We're consistently assured that statistical probabilities overwhelmingly favor aerial transportation over terrestrial alternatives, or do they? Prepare for an enlightening journey as we unveil the concealed aspects of aircraft engineering and aviation travel that airlines would prefer remain shrouded from passenger scrutiny. Consider hygiene standards, for example. Aviation companies enthusiastically promote their fleets as immaculate, lustrous, and sterile environments. However, the authentic cabin atmosphere more closely resembles a neglected theater floor than a sterilized medical facility. Every moment an aircraft remains stationary at the terminal represents diminishing profits. Consequently, the operational framework emphasizes abbreviated ground periods and maximized flight rotations. Ryanair accomplishes short-distance turnarounds in approximately 25 minutes, while Southwest achieves theirs in roughly 35 minutes. Extraordinarily rapid transitions that allocate maintenance crews merely fragments of time, frequently barely 15 minutes before subsequent passenger boarding commences. According to flight attendant Sarah Kegel's revelations, genuinely laundered blankets in economy class are exclusively distributed during the inaugural daily departure. Subsequently, they undergo simple refolding and redistribution regardless of their previous utilization circumstances. Those ubiquitous tray tables, most receive solitary sanitization once daily, typically during overnight aircraft positioning. Perhaps reconsider placing snacks directly upon these surfaces. Passengers have been observed utilizing them as impromptu diaper-changing stations. One attendant confided to The Guardian about resorting to passenger linens for stain removal due to insufficient time and inadequate cleaning supplies, even employing them for human waste cleanup. As recently as 2023, Air Canada encountered severe criticism after seating passengers on locations still contaminated with previous flight vomit, with crew members attempting to mask offensive odors using coffee grounds strategically placed in seat pockets alongside perfume applications. If surface reliability proves questionable, perhaps the overhead ventilation system offers respite? You might reconsider, unless experiencing concentrated dust and accumulated grime directly targeting your respiratory system appeals to you. In 2015, aviation data platform TravelMath documented these air vents harboring substantially more bacterial contamination than seatbelt mechanisms, lavatory door handles, and even toilet flushing apparatus. Should in-flight temperature regulation become necessary, your optimal strategy involves simple fluid intake, though onboard water presents independent complications. In 2003, Environmental Protection Agency sampling of potable water from over 300 aircraft revealed coliform bacteria, frequently linked to fecal contamination, in approximately 15% of tested cases. This identical water supply typically becomes the foundation for onboard beverage service, including tea and coffee preparations. Revolting certainly, yet hardly surprising considering the irregular sanitization schedules for aircraft water storage systems. Therefore, when pursuing cabin cleanliness, remember this unforgiving reality. Avoid consuming tap water, minimize surface contact, and perhaps, just perhaps, restrict breathing to absolute necessities. Regarding respiration, let's acknowledge our content sponsor momentarily. War Thunder establishes itself as the most comprehensive vehicular combat simulation available, featuring a catalog exceeding 2,500 machines, armored vehicles, maritime vessels, and naturally extensive aircraft selections. From interwar period armored reconnaissance vehicles to contemporary main battle tanks and stealth bombing platforms, everything accommodates modification and personalization through sophisticated customization systems. Personally, applying custom tank camouflage patterns provides exceptional entertainment value, featuring stunning visual presentations, immersive audio experiences, and a thriving community surpassing 70 million active players. War Thunder positions you within authentic cockpits for strategic combat, tactical planning, and competitive leaderboard advancement. Access the pinned comment to download War Thunder complimentary across PC, PlayStation, and Xbox platforms, plus claim substantial bonus packages containing vehicles and additional content whether you're newcomer or returning after 6-month absence. Now, resuming our investigative journey. Safety paradox. Rapidly, which aircraft seating positions represent the absolute worst locations? Most individuals immediately respond middle seats, and reasonably so. Nobody fantasizes about being compressed between unknown fellow passengers. Many additionally identify the rear cabin section. It's adjacent to lavatories, and those rows frequently experience enhanced turbulence sensations. A middle seat positioned far aft on a capacity flight sounds torturous. Yet should circumstances strand you there, reconsider before requesting relocation. In 2007, Popular Mechanics conducted comprehensive analysis of National Transportation Safety Board documentation regarding U.S. airline incidents featuring at least one fatality alongside at least one survivor. While crash probability remains minuscule, approximately 1 in 1.2 million, and death probability even more remote, roughly 1 in 11 million, survival patterns proved remarkably revealing. Forward cabin positions demonstrated approximately 49% survival rates, middle sections achieved 56% rates, while rear areas soared to roughly 69%. The most favorable odds of all, middle seats toward the aircraft's tail at approximately 72%. Essentially, the locations we most desperately avoid may provide optimal survival chances. Life's irony at 30,000 feet. Transitioning to cockpit interpersonal dynamics. We typically envision pilots as unshakable paragons of professional composure, unwavering expertise, exceptional emotional regulation. Reality presents more humanized perspectives. Like any professional environment, personality conflicts occasionally emerge, which explains airlines implementing discrete protective measures known as do not pair protocols. Captains alongside first or second officers can formally identify colleagues with whom they experience interpersonal difficulties within scheduling systems, reducing probability of shared flight assignments. Logical approach: nobody desires sharing cramped workspace quarters with colleagues who reheat seafood lunches. However, the system isn't infallible. In 2022, an Air France flight departing Geneva toward Paris reportedly experienced intense verbal altercation shortly after takeoff, featuring pilots physically grasping each other's uniform collars with one allegedly delivering actual punches. A cabin crew member subsequently maintained cockpit presence throughout remaining flight duration to preserve professional peace. If only passengers could establish personal pilot do-not-pair preferences. While discussing ground operations, let's examine baggage handling realities. If you resemble my travel habits, you never depart without essential items, perhaps something you prefer not entrusting to cargo compartments. We prefer believing baggage handlers treat our possessions with meticulous care. But evidence suggests otherwise. Abundant videos document suitcases being carelessly hurled, and operational logic supports this approach. A Boeing 747-400 accommodates approximately 416 passengers in standard 3-class configurations. Even if merely half-checked single bags, that represents roughly 208 pieces requiring loading. Suppose 2 handlers receive, position, and secure each piece within 20 seconds. You're examining approximately 34 minutes exclusively for loading or unloading procedures, while some airlines promote 30-minute complete turnarounds. Delicately handling every individual bag simply cannot scale operationally. Regarding internal protection, robust locks won't guarantee security. Numerous zippers can be manipulated open using standard ballpoint pens and resealed without evidence. According to Los Angeles Times investigations, fewer than 500 of TSA's approximately 150,000 employees faced theft arrests between 2001 and 2011. Roughly 0.3%, but those represent only detected cases. Statistically, you're more likely encountering dishonest handlers than experiencing catastrophic aviation incidents. One convicted TSA employee described widespread indifference culture while claiming to have stolen over $800,000 in merchandise across 4 years. And people suggest YouTube provides effortless income opportunities. This brings us to operational intensity. You might assume pilots represent any flight's cornerstone, which they absolutely are, but flight attendants deserve substantially greater recognition than typically received. They transport refreshments, escort passengers to designated locations, conduct safety presentations, and frequently serve as diplomatic intermediaries by requesting reclined passengers ahead to adjust their seating when we lack courage for direct communication. Surely airlines recognize flight attendants as the fundamental professionals they represent, correct? Unfortunately not. Despite extensive behind-the-scenes preparation they shoulder alongside continuous passenger assistance they provide, most attendants exclusively begin receiving compensation the precise moment cabin doors secure and official duty time commences. Prior to that critical point, they're still obligated to arrive punctually, warmly welcome, and systematically organize boarding passengers, authenticate documentation, manage overhead luggage compartments, guide everyone through emergency protocol demonstrations, verify galley inventory completeness, and offer courteous farewells upon conclusion, and comprehensive responsibility catalog that routinely remains uncompensated. Standard practice involves crews accumulating 4 to 6 hours of unpaid labor during intensive operational days. Long-distance flights do provide modest consideration, concealed sleeping quarters, and crew rest facilities. Where do these accommodations exist within space-constrained aircraft? Typically nestled above overhead storage compartments or behind ingeniously camouflaged panels. So, while you slumber in your assigned seating, they obtain brief, restless sleep within confined spaces overhead. A concept that can feel peculiarly unsettling. Those rest periods aren't luxurious amenities either. Certain attendants report being discouraged from even relaxing posture while wearing uniforms. So envision enduring 10-hour flight segments, securing sleep on collapsible bunks, while maintaining expectation for impeccable presentation. Fashionable uniforms might suggest glamorous appeal, but that aesthetic facade has carried significant consequences. In 2020, over 500 Delta flight attendants initiated legal proceedings against Land's End, the supplier of the carrier's signature passport plum attire, alleging garments contained problematic materials associated with skin irritations, hair loss, and respiratory complications. Not mentioning dye that reportedly stained household linens purple. That litigation remained unresolved during publication, but November 2023 witnessed a jury supporting separate American Airlines crew members who argued their uniforms caused rashes, headaches, and breathing difficulties. Who anticipated the most hazardous aspect of employment might involve getting dressed. While human safety standards in aviation remain extraordinarily comprehensive, identical protection cannot be claimed for avian wildlife. Airlines prefer the sanitized terminology bird strike when aircraft encounter winged travelers during flight. But these collisions occur substantially more frequently than most passengers comprehend. You may have experienced impact vibrations personally without recognition. The FAA's wildlife strike documentation recorded 493 reported bird incidents at New York area airports between 2021 and 2022 exclusively. And those represent only events that achieved official system entry. Damage severity ranges from unsettling to spectacular. One Turkish Airlines aircraft landed with nose cone compressed as if bombarded by meteorites, only for investigators to attribute destruction to low-altitude bird encounters. In 2023, an American Airlines flight sustained strikes that triggered engine combustion and precautionary airport return. No casualties, but considerable cleanup responsibilities for firefighting personnel. Historical records provide grimmer reminders. In 1960, a dense starling flock brought down aircraft less than 60 seconds after Boston Harbor takeoff, killing 62 individuals. No perfect solution exists, and the problem costs the industry an estimated $1.3 billion annually. But one curious mitigation strategy shows promising results. Oversized looming eyes positioned near runways, imagine enormous googly eyes, that frighten certain bird species much like cartoon scarecrows. If those appear judgmental, well, that's precisely the intention. Discussing cargo you wouldn't anticipate, consider what sometimes travels alongside your luggage. Besides standard freight, commercial flights routinely transport human organs and occasionally human remains. Because when transplant recipients await treatment across the continent, speed and reliability supersede all other considerations. Chartering private jets for every organ delivery would prove prohibitively expensive, and statistical aviation safety exceeds courier navigation through road traffic. Stakes remain enormous. A heart can be valued just under $1 million, a liver exceeding $520,000, with kidneys and pancreases around $260,000 and $275,000 respectively. Yet logistics aren't always optimal. Airlines demonstrate reluctance providing seats to medical couriers, so baggage personnel often supervise these critical containers, a system vulnerable to identical mishaps that plague ordinary luggage. In 2018, a human heart was unintentionally abandoned on a Southwest aircraft after landing, and research covering 2014 to 2019 discovered 170 organs spoiled by transport complications with another 370 near-miss incidents. Before September 11th, organs were more frequently stored in cockpit areas. Now they typically travel in cargo holds, mixing with checked bags, another anxiety source at baggage carousels. Nervous passengers often retreat to lavatories for respite, but even that sanctuary contains limitations. The door mechanism you slide closed isn't an impenetrable barrier. There's an external override enabling crew access during emergencies, which represents necessary safety features if someone loses consciousness or children become trapped. But it means privacy isn't absolute. And if you've ever considered there never appear sufficient restrooms available, you're not imagining things. The ubiquitous Boeing 737-800 commonly accommodates around 138 seats with merely 3 lavatories. And according to FAA spokesperson statements, there's no strict minimum requirement for bathroom quantities on commercial airliners. Here's hoping cost reduction pursuits don't lead toward future mile-high queues extending down aisles. Then there's the invisible stressor: atmospheric pressure. As elevation increases, air becomes thinner and pressure decreases. To maintain passenger comfort and consciousness, cabins are pressurized to roughly 11 to 12 psi versus the 14.7 psi we experience at sea level. If that pressure suddenly fails, oxygen masks deploy bridging the gap while pilots descend aircraft to safer altitudes. How long does that oxygen supply last? Not hours, typically around 15 minutes on average, and the FAA requires only 10 minutes minimum. The rationale suggests train crews can usually bring jets down to roughly 10,000 feet, where ambient pressure reaches about 10.2 psi within that time frame. But engineering ideals don't always match chaotic reality. John Barnett, a former Boeing quality control manager, told the BBC he believed roughly 25% of oxygen masks on some 787 Dreamliners were defective, yet were still installed. And in 2024, when an Alaska Airlines Boeing lost a door panel during flight, several passengers reported their masks didn't function properly, forcing them to scramble locating working units. A level of composure most of us can only hope we demonstrate if holes suddenly open to the sky.